you all to join back on. It won't take too long. If you have any friends, send them the link so that they know. Because that silly link is not working, which is annoying. Let's just see if everybody joins this one quickly. Oh, it's so irritating if we're not joining that one. We're back. We are back. I'm just going to wait for everyone to join back onto this one. Sorry about that, everybody. Please share it with your friends. We are back. We were on over 1,000 people watching in the last one, so yeah, the other link is not working, everybody. It's definitely this link. Okay, I think everybody is here, or you'll continue joining. But don't worry, the link to the live is going to be saved and shared and stuff, so you'll be able to watch this later, so don't you stress. Okay. Slowly but surely people are joining from this link, so that's great. There's about 700 of you missing though, so because there was over 1,500 people in the other live. There's still a lot of people in that other live. Maybe what I should try and do is kill that other live if it is there, so that people don't keep joining it, because I think that is potentially also the problem. It can just take me 2 seconds because I can end this live. Okay, I don't know how to end this live and why it's not ending. But for some reason it's stuck and I can't end it on my side. There's just something that's like keeping it this way. But anyway, I'm going to go on teaching and I'm sure everyone will join in. Okay, here we go, everyone. So we were busy drawing a table of the differences between plant A and plant B and what you would expect after 2 weeks. Okay, so let me recap. Number one, let me go back to the table. Number one, you have plant A that has its apical bud intact, and you have plant B that has no apical bud intact. Remember, the apical bud is where we make auxins. So if auxins are removed, like in plant B, it will allow for lateral branches to grow. And that's what they noted here. If, however, you still have your apical bud, you will grow far fewer lateral branches, because remember the apical bud is using apical dominance, right? And it is not also going to grow straight, it's going to bend, as we said in the first point, whereas in plant B, there's no apical bud, so it won't bend, it won't be affected by the light. The last one is an optional extra in your answer. You could have said the plant will be taller, or the plant for plant B will be shorter, and that does make sense because remember the apical bud makes plants grow up, whereas if you take the apical bud away, it causes the plant to get fuller. Okay? All right. Let's look at the last question here. It's a new setup. It says 3.5.4. The diagram below shows plant B 7 days after being sprayed with gibberellians. Now, hopefully we also know that gibberellians also cause growth. I'm hoping everybody here does know that. And it says, explain the effect that gibberellians had on the plant by referring to the changes observed in the diagram. Now, remember, we originally cut off the apical bud. So there is no apical bud here. It is missing. But you will notice, though, that it has started to grow taller, and we are getting some lateral growth. And in actual fact, the distance between the leaves is quite great in between these two. Now, if we go back to our original picture, look how close together they were here. Look how close together they are here versus how far away they are over here. And that is linked to the fact that gibberellians, they lengthen internodes, which basically means, unlike apical dominance, which makes a plant grow from the top up, internodes and gibberellians, that causes, if here is a node and here is a node, it causes the stem in between the two nodes to grow longer. In other words, this part here and this part here elongates and it grows out and it grows longer. Okay, so that's all you actually have to say here for 2 marks, is by referring to the changes observed in the diagram, which basically means you must look at the picture and confirm what is the difference here and what is the difference here, and it is this difference here, this space in between here. It is an explain question, so remember, so because it's an explain question, you have to give a statement and a reason. Our statement has to do with what gibberellians do. Gibberellians lengthen internodes, so that's our statement. And now, because we know what gibberellians do, we can give a reason for why there is a change in the length between the nodes or the distance between the leaves. Because if I zoom out and you compare the differences, and let me get rid of all the purple so that it doesn't sort of blur your vision. Look how close together the leaves are here versus how far apart they're here. Now, if you didn't know that straight away, oh, my screen is frozen. Why is it frozen? I feel like I'm having no success. You can hear me, but it's frozen. I feel like nothing is going right in this live, guys. This is wild. What is going on? I don't even know why it won't even let me unfreeze it. That is so wild. This is so frustrating, guys. I'm like super frustrated now. So frustrating. And now if I end the live again, which is what I feel like that's what it's like suggesting I do. I feel like I'm just going to lose everybody again. I can't even... Are we alive? Are we living? Are we here? Yay! Oh my days. I feel like the universe is just not letting us have this live, guys. It is like at every corner just preventing this from progressing. I haven't even gotten to the next question yet. My days. Okay, finally. All right, let's move on, guys, because I feel like it's jinxed. If I don't move on to another question, I feel like we'll be forever and eternity stuck on the plant question. Okay, guys. So all I was saying was, let's keep it simple. All I was saying was, gibberellians lengthen internodes, and they are the reason why the leaves have gotten further apart from one another if we were to spray it on the plant. Okay? Lovely. Must move on. Here is the memo. I'm going to let you look at it for a hot second, especially if you watch this video again later. But probably if you watch this video again later, or somebody else watches this later, they're going to be like, what on earth was going on in Mam's life? It was wild. Anywho. So let's move on. I'm going to move on to an I question because I know a lot of you are like, please, ma'am, do an I question. So I'm doing an I question. All right. This past paper is a supplementary paper from 2018. As you can see at the top there. Remember, I said I liked this paper quite a bit because it's got some good stuff in it, everybody. So let's go into the eye and let's have a look at what this question wants from us. So the diagram below shows the structure of an eye. Remember, it's really important to just spend a hot second or two filling in as much information as possible onto the diagram so that you know you're comfortable with everything. Right, so let's quickly just do that together. And I like to do that before we answer any of the questions. Get a little bit closer. So A is pointing to the iris. I know that because this is the opening over here where the pupil would be in the center. And then we've got B, C, and D. And those are the three layers of the eye. I'm going to start with the middle one, which is the choroid. We've got C, which would be the sclera, and because it's the outside label. And then on the inside, D, this would be the retina. And then I'm hoping we all know that E is going to be the nerve that's going to leave out the back of your eye. You could call it, let's think, there's so many names that you could call this, but I would call it the optic nerve. It does have other names, but you can go with optic nerve. That's also good. Okay, so we've done the basics. Now let's move on to the harder questions below. Number 1 says we're going to identify part B and C, which great, we've already done. And so let's go back there one more time. B is the choroid, C is the sclera. Now let's move on to 4.2. It says explain the effect on a person's vision if E is cut. So remember, E is the optic nerve. It's this one over here. So if we cut the optic nerve, what is going to happen? Well, remember, this is a explain question. So tomorrow, everybody, if you get an explain question, let's not forget that you always have to give a statement and then a reason, right? So our statement is going to be that if you cut the optic nerve, there will be no impulse conducted. That's the statement. And if no impulse is conducted, then no image will be interpreted. You could also say the person would be blind or they would have no vision. You can also say that too. Okay. All right, 2.4.3, it says part D can be damaged by very bright light. And if we go back to make sure we've labeled part D correctly, it is the retina. So describe how part A helps to protect part D in very bright light. Now I'll be interested to know, what do you think you have to say here? What body of knowledge do you think this question is? And I'm going to look in the comment section now to see if anybody gets it right. What do you have to answer to get this right? Part D is damaged by very bright light. Describe how part A helps protect the retina. I'm looking in the comment section and I'm hoping I'm seeing. Assad, it's worrying me that you're saying accommodation, my friend. It is a pupillary mechanism. Oh my goodness. Guys, accommodation is to make an image clear. Pupillary mechanism is to limit the amount of light in the eye. Okay? It's very concerning, folks, if we don't know the difference between the two before tomorrow. So I'm going to say it again. Accommodation is for a clear image, and pupillary is to limit the amount of light going in the eye. Okay, so now you have to describe pupillary mechanism, literally. That's all you're going to have to describe there in order to get full marks. So we're in a bright light. So I'm going to bring my answer down here so you can see my bullet points. Our first mark is going to talk about the radial muscles relax. Second point, the circular muscles contract. Okay. And then the pupil reduces. Because remember, we're going from a large pupil and we're trying to make it smaller. Remember, that's the aim of this. And last but not least, we must always say less light enters the eye. Okay, and that's pretty much going to get you 4 marks. Cha-ching, 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 cha-ching. Done. Okay, and that is how the iris is helping protect the retina in very bright light. Okay, next question. It says 2.4.4, and I really like this question because I feel like a lot of you would have struggled with it. And so that's always what I choose, is I like to choose challenging questions that you might see tomorrow. And they do like to ask condition questions. So in a condition called presbyopia, lenses lose their elasticity and therefore maintain a constant flat shape, which if you're struggling to envision that, instead of having a nice like bulgy lens like that, it basically means the lens stays very narrow like this. It loses its ability to stretch, which remember, for it to be a good lens, it must be elastic. So for A, explain how this condition would affect a person's vision. So now you need to think, if the lens can't move, what can't this person do? So I'm going to ask the group chat once more, what section of knowledge have we done where the lens changes shape? What body of knowledge are you going to use to answer this question here, which is an explain for 4 marks? Oh, thank the Pope. Everyone is saying accommodation. Yay! So instead of saying accommodation in the positive, you are actually going to have to give the negative answer, which means there will be no accommodation. All right? And because there is no accommodation for this particular person, right, they won't be able to change the shape of their lens, which is, of course, problematic. And now what that means is that the light rays are going to fall behind the eye. So we're going to say no accommodation. And because there is no accommodation, now what you need to say is you need to talk about how you have distance vision, right? So that means that we're going to have no accommodation. The lens cannot refract, which means the lens can't change shape. And if there's no accommodation and the lens can't refract and the lens can't change shape, then a image forms behind the retina. Okay? It falls behind the retina. Now, I know you're probably like, ma'am, I don't know how you got all of this answer. can you explain? Okay. Let me show you something out of my cheat sheet study guide quickly. I actually have a printed copy with me because then I can show it to you more easily. Just want to show you something. This is the visual defects of the eye. Okay. And you get two kinds of visual defects. You get myopia and you get hypermetropia. That means you have short-sightedness and you have long-sightedness. Now, we've just established that this person's lens, okay, is unable to move itself. In other words, if we look at what does it mean to have hypermetropia, it means when you see far away, but you cannot see close up, your eye is too short, and here's the important bit, the lens is too flat because it cannot stretch and it cannot change shape. It's stuck, okay? So what happens is the light rays meet behind the retina, which is what this picture is here. This is what it looks like when the light rays meet beyond the eye or beyond the retina. This is what it looks like when the light rays hit in front of the retina. Okay, this is a pretty hard question, guys. I'm going to show you the memo answer too now so we can look at it. And then they ask you, if you were a doctor, suggest the shape of the lens that may be prescribed by a doctor to correct this disorder. Well, if the image is falling in front of the retina, as we said down here, then the only lens that's going to work for us there is a convex lens. Okay. All right. I am going to, before I show you the memo, sorry, I'm just swapping between here. I'm going to just say one more thing. If you were lost on any of this, I don't want you to panic. Tomorrow, what you're going to do is you're going to ask yourself, they wouldn't ask a question like this if I didn't have knowledge about it somewhere in my brain. And so if you see this, don't be overwhelmed by when they talk about condition and the name of the condition, and it goes on to talk about losing the elasticity. The clue they gave you to find the knowledge that you have was actually this piece right here. It says it maintains a flat shape. And as we've actually learned, if I go back to my little study guide, when you have hypermetropia, your lens or your cornea is too flat. So now you know how to explain using the knowledge you have. This is the knowledge you have, remember? You just take that knowledge and you apply it to the new situation they've given you and you'll be good. Okay. All right. I'm going to show you the memo and I'm just going to zoom out a smidge so you can see the whole memo. This one over here, there were many options. I didn't write them all out. You can see they said any 4 here. So like here's an option, the refractive power is low, lens, the light won't be refracted, it won't be focused on the retina or to be behind the retina, and therefore the person cannot focus on objects closer than 6 meters. I think that's the only one that I didn't mention was the fact that they are long-sighted, but I suppose if you said the words long-sighted, you would still get this mark. Okay. I'm going to leave that up for anybody who wants to come back and look at this memo for a few more seconds. And I'm just going to look at the comments section. Everyone is asking me, what is that book? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the cheat sheet. It's my own copy that I have printed out for myself so I can reference it easy. But it is the cheat sheet in person. I'm thinking about printing it next year and making it like a real book, but that's what this is. Okay. All right, I think we're going to move on, everybody, and we're going to do an ear question. Okay, don't worry for those of you hanging around for the reproductive questions, they're coming soon. I like this ear question because, wow, guys, it is... It's a doozy. There's actually this last question at the bottom here. I'm very interested to see what all of you would have said. So again, this question paper is the supplementary paper from 2018. And I will say, if you're thinking about practicing papers, I think everyone should at least do the supplementary from 2022 so that you get a feel for the new examiner's style, because they probably would have set that paper too. And also, I think I wouldn't go too far back. Like even me going to 2018 is quite far back, but it's because I know what to look for. Obviously, back in 2018, there were other subjects or other topics in the papers that are no longer there or have moved into another paper, so just keep that in mind. But I really like this question. And remember, we'll always have the knowledge to answer all these questions. We just have to think about what have we learned that is linked to what we're going to be asked. Okay, so let's go through the human ear. So it says, here is a diagram below that represents a part of the human ear, and we've got structure A, B, and C. Remember, a good go-to is to always label everything. So structure A is our semicircular canals. Then sitting below that is this swollen region over here, which is the utriculus, and also the sacculus. Okay. Then sitting below this is the cochlea. Okay. So those are our regions of the ear that we're working with right now. Okay. So let's get a little closer so we can see it in more detail. All right, 2.3.1 says the following. It says, name the part of the brain that receives impulses from part A and part B. So everybody, where in the brain do you get information from part A and part B? Keeping in mind that part A and part B have nothing to do with hearing. I know, if it's the first time you're studying this today, which hopefully it's not, but for some of you it might be, part A and B have nothing to do with hearing. So what part of the brain does that go to, everybody? Lovely. It's the cerebellum. The cerebellum is used for posture and balance. Then where does part C go? Well, the only other option there is the cerebrum. It's certainly not the medulla oblongata, and it's certainly not the spinal cord. Definitely not the spinal cord. All right. So let's move into our next question. Name the receptor found at part C. So what is the name of the receptor, everybody, in the cochlea? Mary Jane, you are first in there. Nikita, yes, it is the organ of Corti. Lovely. All right, let's get to this question, because this is actually why I chose this one, because this is the one where you're busy doing your exam paper and you go, oh my gosh, I don't know how to answer this. 2.3.3, explain 2 ways in which part A in the diagram is structurally suited to maintain balance. So I just want you to sort of marinate on that question for a second there. They are talking about A, the semicircular canals. And I'm very interested to see what people say. You can, if you want, you can write it in the comments alongside in the chat. But basically, what I am going to ask you is, you have learned knowledge on this. Where is that knowledge? What are you using to answer this question? You have learned stuff about the semicircular canal. They are saying explain 2 ways in which part A is structurally suited to maintain balance. Because it says 2 ways, by the way, for 4 marks, that means, if I write it down below here, you're going to have your first reason, which is a statement and reason, and then your second answer, which is a statement and a reason. Okay, so just think about how you're going to structure this. So I've got some people talking about the fluid. That is one of them. And Lindo says that they are in 3 planes of one another, which is yes. So I'm going to take those 2 answers and put them in here. So number 1, how is it suited to maintain balance? You have 3 canals at 90 degrees of one another. Reason being, why do we have that? So we can sense, what are we sensing? Speed or direction in every plane. And what that means is, plane, by the way, means is it up and down, left and right, or forward and backwards? So that's the first structural adaptation. The second structural adaptation is the lymph. So I can say here, it contains lymph. It actually contains something which we call endolymph, if you really want to be specific. And that endolymph, if that's my statement, reason, why does that help with balance? Well, the endolymph stimulates, actually, no, let's not write stimulates. Let's first of all say it moves and stimulates the receptor in the ear. Okay, and that's how you get 2 out of 2. When I first read that question, I was like, oh, I'm not sure everyone would be able to do this, but I'm feeling good that you can do this without me. Alia Jacobs, you want to know where do you find the notes of my book? My book is on my website. There's cheat sheet, that's where you can find it. Or if you are a YouTube Rescue Me member, then it's for free in the membership. But I don't think you are a member just because you don't have the little star next to your name. Generally, that's how I can spot members from others in the chat. Carla wants to know what lymph is. Lymph, everybody, if you are not so certain yourself, I'm just going to get rid of some of my answer so I can show Carla what it is. Lymph, everybody, is, here is the semicircular canal on the inside. Right, there it is. Here is the cristae sitting at the bottom. And inside of here is a liquid called lymph or endolymph. And it fills this space. And basically every time you move your head, the lymph sloshes like a roller coaster around the canal like that. And it stimulates this structure over here, which we call the cristae. Okay, that's what it is, Carla. Alrighty then, I think I'm going to move on. Somebody's speaking about the maculae. The maculae, everybody, is in the sacculus and utriculus. Here is the memo answer if you just want to have a look at it. And they gave a third option, which was this one over here, which we didn't do, but that's okay. Remember, it's an optional extra one. Tariq, I'm glad that you're learning and not revising, but I understand it's panicking because it means you're learning new things. Okay. Alrighty then. Ma'am, difference between endolymph and perilymph. Endo's on the inside, peri's on the outside. But don't worry, you don't need to know the difference for the final exam. You can use any word, peri or endo. Zoleka, you want to know, can we mention the cristae moving and be stimulated in the speed and direction? I mean, you could. I suppose that would come in over here. This one. Oh, oops. Over here. It's just highlighted. That's where your answer, when they say, when the person moves their head, it would be the same tick there. Change in a speed and direction. This paper, everybody, if you just look at the top here, is the 2018 paper, and this is the supplementary paper. Tegan, you want me to do neurons? If you actually go and watch Tuesday's live lesson, which is saved on my channel, I do a neurons. It's actually the first question we do in the video if you want to go and watch that after this. Spani wants to know, do we need to know about the copula? No, we don't. All right, let's go on to the next chapter, everybody. We're going to do some reproductive questions now. We're going to do a male reproductive question, an implantation question, and then a female reproductive. Everybody who is looking for homeostasis and endocrine questions, you should go and watch the live lesson I did on Tuesday, and it is on my channel. It is on the playlist. You just have to go back a couple of videos. It's there. It's the live lesson, paper 1 revision. Okay, so let's go into this question now, and this one is from a supplementary paper in 2022, so last year, and it says the diagram below shows a part of the male reproductive system. So this is the testes. I want you to make an important note here that this part over here has been cut and tied, and that's going to be, that's going to be important for us later. All right, so as always, we're going to label everything. So A is the vas deferens. B is going to be our epididymis. I can never remember how to spell epididymis. It's the I and the D and the Y and the M, and it's just all too similar for me. I can never remember how to spell it. Epididymis. There we go. And then sitting inside of that at C is going to be the testes, or the testes. Okay, right, easy peasy. Let's move into our first question. So 2.2.1, identify part A. We've done that. It is the vas deferens. I prefer the vas deferens, everybody. I don't really like the sperm duct as an answer. It's not a great answer, guys. And just to answer you, Kimon, is spelling important? Yes, it is important, but if you by accident, like if you were spelling epididymis tomorrow and you left out the Y or you left out one of these I's, it's not the end of the world. It won't change the meaning of the word. Okay, anyway, let's move on. Number 2, state one function of part B. So what is the function of part B? I'm hoping you all say it is for maturation. Or you could say storage, either one, of sperm. Okay, easy peasy on that one. Moving up. 2.2.3 says, during a vasectomy, part A is cut and tied as shown in the diagram. Semen will still be released during copulation. Explain the composition of semen after a vasectomy for 3 marks. So you need to have, again, it's an explain question. So remember, structure your answer tomorrow like this. Statement for 1 mark. And because it's only one thing we're talking about, you've got to give 2 reasons. So statement, reason tomorrow. Okay? So explain the composition of semen after a vasectomy. So first statement is, there will be no sperm. Right? However, if we look at our diagram here, because we make the cut or the incision over here, do you agree that there is the rest of the reproductive system is still intact? Which means, and they've already actually told you that, which means you'll still make semen. And that means if there is no sperm, that's okay, because you'll still have semen, which means that the prostate gland, the epididymis, not the epididymis, excuse me, the prostate gland, the seminal vesicle, and the Cowper's gland are all going to still produce their secretions, all right? So we can still say that. So we can say our semen contains, and you can list all those secretions. And you're going to need another reason. And that reason can be one of the secretions to get the 3rd mark. So let me just show you what they would have said for 2.2.3. They give you a mark for semen will not contain sperm. They are not transported. I suppose that's the extra one we didn't, but they will contain all the secretions, examples thereof. They're saying examples thereof. Basically, that means you can say the prostate gland, the whatever, the seminal vesicle, and the vasectomy occurred before the accessory gland. So what they're saying is, if I just go back here, your other reason could be no sperm. Semen still contains secretions. Why? Because the cut is before glands, which are all the structures secreting everything. Okay, righty then. Lovely. Okay, I will go back onto that memo if you want to look at it just now. All right, 2.2.4. In some rare cases, males are born with part C, which is the testes, located inside the body because it failed to descend into the scrotum. Explain, there's another explain question, how this condition may affect male fertility for 3 marks. Again, how are we going to structure this answer tomorrow? Let's not forget, we want to do a statement, reason, reason. Because it's for 3, we've got to put 2 reasons, 1 statement. All right. And yes, the temperature is the problem. Okay. So remember, you've got to think, what knowledge have I already done about fertility and temperature and the scrotum and how that all goes together? So how would this condition affect male fertility? So our statement, it is going to reduce fertility. You need to say that. Okay, that's your statement. So it's reducing fertility. Why? So here are your reasons. Why? Well, because the temperature is too high. And what are sperm made out of? Protein. So the sperm, you could say denature. You could say deform. You could say they don't grow correctly or properly or are able to swim, and therefore the man has a reduced fertility level. And so that's how we should be planning out our answers tomorrow when it comes to explain questions. Okie dokie. 2.2.5 says describe, it's a different way of answering now, the process of spermatogenesis for 4 marks. I'm just going to remove my answer down here so I have some space. Remember, describe is like how, when, why, where, that kind of thing. Now, normally I would let you just like free answer this. In other words, write your own answer, but this one is really important. This one you should be taking from the guideline. You shouldn't be making this up, everybody. And I can see people's answers. Sonki, your answer is really good. So what we're looking for here for 4 points is we're going to talk about under the influence of testosterone. I'm not going to write the whole thing out just to save some space. We're going to talk about diploid cells. They undergo meiosis, and those form haploid gametes or sperm cells, if you want to say something like that. The only thing I actually left off here, I beg your pardon, is where it happens. And so I'm going to put here, this occurs in the seminiferous tubules. Seminiferous tubules. Oops, there we go. Okay. So again, please can you I don't want you to free answer this. In other words, make it up. You really should be using your guideline for this last one. Okay. So that's the male basic structure kind of question. Now let's do a female and specifically a developing embryo question. I really like this question because it was different. Again, I like to choose harder questions for these lives to see if you can do them, especially before tomorrow, right? I'm just pausing for a second and reading your comments. No, I haven't done ovulation, menstruation. That's the next question, everybody, so don't worry about it. Okay. All right, I think the live will be, if someone's asking how long the live will be, until we finish the next question. So there's one more question after this one that we're going to do on the female hormones, okay? All right, so 2.3, describe, let's just actually get this all in here. Describe how the developing embryo is protected and nourished in ovoviviparous organisms for 7 marks. That's wild, hey guys. You got to say 7 different things. And you've got to talk about how they are provided protection and nutrients. And remember, ovoviviparous organisms, they are organisms that are inside of an egg, right? So I'm hoping the first thing you think of when you think nourished is yolk. And protected, I'm hoping you're thinking of all the membranes, right? I'm hoping you're also thinking, when we talk membranes, you're thinking chorion. I'm hoping you're thinking, what else? The amnion. I'm hoping we're also thinking of the alliantois. Sure, even maybe the shell, guys, that's a separate one like over here. And these are all the things that we are going to have to talk about. But you know what's also interesting, everyone? If you read this too quickly, you're just going to talk about an egg. But this question says ovoviviparous, doesn't it? Doesn't that mean this is also inside a female? Which means there's another element to this answer. Okay. So if I show you let me show it to you because it's much quicker and then we can get to the next question. Let me show you the memo answer for this. Oh no, I didn't save the memo answer. Or maybe I did. Let's see, did I put it on the next page? No, but I know I have it. So let's see, is it this one? No, it's not this one. Is it this one? No. I will quickly get the memo. Let me get it for you guys. Let's see, where is it? There it is. I'm just going to take a quick picture of it and put it on for you. All right, let's go back to here. There it is. Let's make it bigger. There we go. So here is our answer for all our protection. And look how many you have to give. Now, I'm scared that we'll get a question like this tomorrow and not know what to do. So I want to show you some of the interesting ones. These are all the protection ones. So you could have gotten the amniotic egg is retained inside the mother. Do you see that's a compulsory question? Or sorry, a compulsory answer. A compulsory answer means you must acknowledge that this organism is retained inside of the mother. You can't get 7 out of 7 if you don't give that first one. So my suggestion to you, Matrix, is always do the following. Tell the marker you know what that thing is. Or in this case, if we just go back to the question, tell the marker you know what it means to be ovoviviparous. Tell them that, okay? So let's go back and I'll show you the answer. Here it is. So the amniotic egg is retained inside the mother's body. This can protect the embryo. These are all optional answers. As you can see, there's lots. We have the alliantois, which protects the embryo. It removes wastes. You also have the embryo is protected from shock absorption. And it has done that through the chorion, the amnion, the amniotic fluid, the shell, and you could also talk about the air pocket. Now, don't forget the mark allocation down here, which is the one compulsory mark. And then you could have any other 4 here. Any other 4 here. Any other 4. So that means you can have 1 plus any 4 here, but that only gives you 5. Now for the nourishment, we do the embryo receives nutrients from the egg yolk and from the albumin. So you could say any 2 of these to get 7 out of 7. Isn't this quite a hard question? I think so. Okay, last but not least, I'm going to leave that up for a hot second. And I am going to go on to the last question, which you've probably all been waiting for, the female hormone question. And I'm going to have to do this one also quickly and get through it efficiently. So here we go. If you have any questions, make sure you put them in the chat so that I can see them. Okay. Right. Here we go. The question that you all hate when you see it in the exam. Okay, this is also from the 2018. Oh no, is this from the 2018? Or maybe this is on the 2019 paper. This one I can't remember now where I got it from. Maybe it's a 2022 paper. Who knows? Okay. The FSH test is sometimes used to determine the cause of infertility in females. The levels of FSH usually indicates the number of follicles in the ovaries. If the number of follicles are low or depleted, the pituitary gland will secrete more FSH. In other words, FSH can indicate someone's fertility. And I did say to you in my prediction video that I think fertility questions are going to come up. And I do think that it's going to center around monitoring a hormone to tell you that. And the 2 hormones we do that with is FSH and progesterone. FSH can tell you how fertile you are, and progesterone can tell you how pregnant you are. So that's how we know whether or not we're pregnant or not, or we are fertile or not. Okay, so it says an investigation was, and we're going to highlight here, conducted to compare the average FSH levels in 4 different age groups. That's the aim of this experiment. And they did the following. They had 1,000 females, 250 in 4 age groups. The females were all healthy and not using any hormone-based contraceptives. Their blood FSH levels was measured on day 3 of their menstrual cycle for 5 cycles. The average FSH levels in their blood was calculated per age group, and here is the results below. So hopefully we can see here that as people get older, let me just move this over. As people get older, their FSH levels reduce. So here is their age and they're getting older, and we start off with 70. It doesn't automatically reduce. Their fertility reduces, I beg your pardon, but their FSH levels go up. So now you're probably like, ma'am, why is that? Because the body is trying to be fertile, right? Stay with me here. It's trying to be fertile. So as it said in the beginning of the paragraph, if the numbers of follicles are low or depleted, the pituitary gland will secrete more FSH, okay? So what's happening here is as you age, you make more FSH because the number of eggs is decreasing. So FSH tries to make more. We try and make more, even though there isn't any more to make. We're trying to make more. Okay? So, number 1. State 2 factors regarding the females that should have been kept constant during this investigation. This is a validity question. So if we look here, what should they have done? Well, they kept them in the same age groups. They had the same amount. They were all healthy. They were all not using any hormone contraceptives. Let's think of something else. What else could they have done? That's a tricky question. What other things should have been kept constant during this investigation? What are we going to say for this one, everybody? Anything they could have kept constant? Anybody? What else could they have kept constant? Diet is a good one. Lovely. Anything else? Age. I mean, they had an age group, remember? So they are within the same group. They were all on their menstrual cycle. Yeah, they all have a healthy menstrual cycle. Diet, age, got ages. Fitness is a good one. They've already got, let's see, they're all healthy. We've already got that one. We could put maybe exercise, but I think exercise, for me, falls under health, everybody. Oh, we've got weight. That's not a bad one. Weight. Maybe, what about if they've had any children? What about that one? That's a good one. They're not pregnant. They're not allowed to get pregnant during this time. Not pregnant, because that will also affect it. Anything else? Their height and their blood type, nah, that won't make any difference. Medication, that's a good one, although I think that might fall under hormone. They're not taking any hormone-based contraceptives, but I'll throw it in there and let's have a look at the memo just now. So I'm just going to put their medicine. The environment, not so good. Oh, stress is a nice one. The stress levels, because that affects your fertility. I think we've got quite a few here. We'll check the memo now to also see what they would say. Let's move on to 3.2.2. State 2 ways in which reliability of the results was ensured. So this must be something they did do. So we've actually only got 3 answers to ever give, but remember, it must be ones they have done, because it says what was ensured. So the first and obvious one is given away in the table. They calculated an average. So I'm going to put here, they calculated an average. And then our 2 other options is they used a large sample size or they repeated it. Okay, one of those is usable. The other one is not usable. The fact that they use 1,000 females is a very large sample size. So I would say there are 1,000 females, which is a large sample. Why do you think I can't say repeated the investigation? And I want you to think about it for a second. You are not allowed, or it doesn't make sense to say they repeated the investigation. And I know you're probably reading this bullet point over here going, but ma'am, they did it for 5 cycles. Yes, they did. But the 5 cycles was part of one experiment. They didn't redo the whole experiment with another 1,000 females for another 5 cycles. Okay? Moving on to 3.2.3, state one conclusion that can be drawn from the results. Well, a conclusion must always have your variables. And we just said it now. As you get older, you produce more FSH. And that's what's going to get you 2 out of 2. As you get older, you produce more FSH. I'm not going to write that out because it's pretty straightforward, that sentence. 3.2.4, explain why estrogen levels may remain low in the blood of females 41 to 50 age group. 3 marks. It's an explain question, so let's remember the rules. What is it? Statement, reason, and because it's out of 3, we need another reason. So, number 1, statement. Explain why estrogen levels will remain low. Now you need to know your hormone interactions. FSH and estrogen work in negative feedback. So if I'm an older woman in between the ages of 41 and 50, I will have a high level of FSH. So I'm going to say there as a statement, FSH is high. Therefore, reason, it will FSH will cause estrogen to be low due to, we can put here, negative feedback, as there are no follicles developing. And guys, if there are no follicles developing, then what hormone are you not making and therefore remaining low? If there are no follicles developing, there will be no estrogen. I'm just going to put it as OES, estrogen. Lovely, lovely, lovely. They could be going through menopause. I did see someone say that. But unfortunately, if you just say they're in menopause, that's not going to get you all your marks. Okie dokie. I'll show you the memo one for that too just now. Let's do the last question. I'm just going to get rid of this bit here. Right. 325. Explain why females that were using progesterone-based pills were excluded from this. Okay, so why did we exclude them? Well, and it's for 3 marks, remember? So, statement, and now 2 reasons. Why would we exclude women from progesterone pills? Because high levels of progesterone will do what, everybody? They will inhibit FSH, because these 2 hormones are opposites of one another. They're called antagonistic. This is the pregnancy hormone. This is the egg developing hormone. You cannot be pregnant and making a new egg. So these 2 can never be high at the same time. So why did we exclude these women? We excluded these women because if they had high levels of progesterone, it would inhibit FSH. Therefore, it would be a false reading, and it doesn't indicate number of follicles, or for that matter, eggs. Because remember, that was the whole point of this whole thing. Remember, at the beginning of the question here, it says if you have number of follicles that are low or depleted, right? The pituitary gland tries to make up for this and makes more FSH. The thing is, if you have high levels of progesterone because you're taking a pill with it, it will inhibit FSH. That will give you a false reading. In other words, you could be a woman that is like 33 to 35, but you'll have a very low reading of FSH because your progesterone tablet is inhibiting the FSH, which gives a false reading, and it doesn't indicate how many follicles there are. In other words, it's masking the natural state of your body. I'm looking at your answers. Monique, if you say eggs instead of follicles, will you still get the mark? Not really, because a follicle makes estrogen, not an egg. All right, I'm going to just scroll over so you can all see the memo that goes with this and just have a look at it. These are some of the answers that we gave earlier. Remember, we were thinking about like what could we have said for things that they kept regular. So they must have a regular menstrual cycle. They must not become pregnant. They must pick up diet. I'm sure they probably added a few others in the memo discussion on the day. So it wasn't just these 3. They probably had even more that they would have accepted. All right, and you can also see how they've sort of structured it. If you ever see an or in an answer, it means that you must either answer both ticks from the first or both ticks from the second. I'm looking at the questions in the chat. So for those of you who don't know how to do a pie chart, you should go and watch my video in my grade 12 playlist the questions playlist. So not the normal videos, the one where I put all the questions, like I answer questions. There's one there that has a pie chart in it. You should go watch that. I tell you how to draw it. There's a question from somebody saying, can we do a graph of the hormones? I do have a very, very good menstrual cycle video that you could just go and watch with all the hormones in it too. Let's see. Clarify between reliability and validity. I can quickly do that for you. So if it's valid, it's variables, which means same time, place, size, age, etc. That's validity. And then reliability. When we talk about reliability, we are talking about results. So are the results reliable? And results are reliable if you repeat, if you have a large sample, and if you calculate an average. Oh, the one other one here under validity, by the way, which is not like same time, same place, is when you have a control experiment. That's the extra. Okay. All right, everybody. I'm going to sort of leave it there. There are so many queries and questions for other topics. Guys, I have so many videos answering your questions. Mbali, you are asking, could I please explain the negative feedback mechanism between estrogen and FSH again? I'll quickly do that for you. Brainy wants me to do that too. Guys, all your questions, I promise you, I actually have a video on all of those things. You just need to look for them in the Grade 12 playlist. But I'll quickly tell you I'll do the difference again very quickly, because also I'm worried that we're going to run out of time and battery too. So essentially this is how it works, right? Here is an ovary. Here is a follicle. The follicle is going to develop into a Graafian follicle. It's then eventually going to go through ovulation and release a ovum, right? FSH increases so that we can produce a follicle. It goes up. As the follicle grows and gets bigger, as it releases estrogen, sorry, I'm just checking here if anyone's watching this video later. You're probably why I'm being so quiet, but it's because I'm waiting for the video to come back. There we go. As it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, estrogen is secreted more, which means estrogen levels go up. When it's at this size, it's giving off so much estrogen that this high level of estrogen coming out of the Graafian follicle causes FSH to go down. So in very simple terms, we have FSH and we have estrogen. When FSH is high, estrogen is low. And that makes sense because we're growing an egg. As the egg gets bigger, however, estrogen levels start to go up. And that means we are growing an egg. So if estrogen levels are going up, then FSH levels go down. And that is their negative feedback between each other. Okay. I'm just having a look at everybody's questions. This live has been wild today. And just because I feel like we've gone on and off and on and off and on and off, and I just feel like it hasn't been smooth. For those of you who are still watching, yes, I will be doing a paper 2 live. I'm thinking about maybe doing more than one, and maybe do one on Saturday and one on Sunday. Definitely one on Sunday, right? Definitely, yes. I don't know how you all are feeling, if you should do it on the Saturday or the Sunday. Sunday. People are saying Sunday is the day. Yeah, everyone is saying definitely Sunday. We might even be able to do both days, but I think Sunday is a good day. And I promise there'll be less interruptions on Sunday. Today has just been a bit of a wild lesson, but I think we managed to get what we needed to get done. And if I do go live on Saturday as well, I'm going to put the link in on the YouTube page. So maybe what you should do is put on your notifications, even just for this short period of time, so that you know the moment I go live, you get a notification and you come onto the live. And if I do it on Saturday and Sunday, it will be earlier in the day, not at the crack of dawn, but like, 11 a.m., maybe something like that, so that you can still have the rest of the day to revise anything I say that maybe you didn't know. I don't want to do it too late in the day and then you all panic. All right. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. I'm going to say good luck. Remember, if you're ever sitting in a question and you think, I don't remember learning this, or what knowledge do I have to answer this, you have done something. You just have to read between the lines in the question, read carefully. There's always a clue there. There's something in the question that you have done in class that links to something that you've done in class, and go from there. And my last advice is, when you're writing for a final matric marker, if you could be more specific, be more specific. If you read your answer and you go, I could have said more, or I could have told them what the hormone does, instead of just saying where we find it. If you can be more specific, be more specific. Okay, everybody, keep an eye out for the next live for paper 2. And of course, don't forget to go and watch the prediction video for paper 1 and paper 2. And I will see you all again soon, everybody. Bye.